Wow, wow, wow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Maple Leaf Talk. That's right. Actually, we're kind of stretching this type of Maple Leaf Talk because, in all sincerity and honesty, normally this would turn because the Leaf season, the Maple Leaf hockey team season starts. We would make this more about those players and that team. Fortunately for us, we have something else that has become very interesting and of interest to most of us here in Canada. I don't think I'm having a hard time. I'm struggling with this, Aaron. I don't think we have a Canadian player on the Blue Jays. I don't think this is probably the first time in a long time in a season where the Jays don't have a Canadian on the team. There was one, but he's not on this roster. I'll put it that way. I believe There is no Canadian on this roster. There is the opportunity, I guess, for a younger guy that isn't on the team to come up that could be a Canadian. But at this point, no, we don't have one. So the interest here is strictly based on.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, Vladdy, but
that's why I'm kind of well, you know what? He was born in Canada. So, but you know what I mean? The typical Canadian
100%.
kid that lives in Canada, grows up in Canada, plays in Canada, works up his way in baseball in Canada, then goes to the U.S., plays college baseball, and then becomes a Canadian baseball player in the Major League Baseball. But yeah, he is a native Canadian, born in Canada. His father, Vladimir Guerrero, minus the junior, because he wasn't the junior, he's the senior. Now, when he was around, he didn't refer to himself as senior because there was no junior, so there was no need to have a senior. Anyway, so he was born while playing in Montreal, which is a nice touch that reminds us and reminds anybody who's willing to listen that even though baseball's been something that's been played in Canada for over 100 years, maybe more, there is a history in Major League Baseball, and that history is actually Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in person. He is the definition of baseball coming to Canada and taking root.
100%.
And sprouting.
Yep. There are actually a few Canadian-born players that are currently playing in the playoffs.
Yes, but not for the Jays.
Not for the Jays. No.
No, go ahead. You want to name them, or
I was going to say. So you're looking at Josh Naylor. He's from Mississauga, has 20 home runs and 92 ribbies. He plays for the Mariners. You've got Matt Brash from Kingston, Ontario. He's a right-handed pitcher with a 2.47 ERA. There's Michael Soroka from Calgary with the Chicago Cubs. Matt Brash plays for Seattle as well as Josh Naylor. There's Michael Soroka, who plays for the Chicago Cubs. He was born in Calgary, Alberta. There's also Jameson Talon with the Chicago Cubs. He's got dual citizenship, technically speaking. He's born in Florida, but he plays like he's got both citizenships. Then there's Jordan Romano, who plays with the Philadelphia Phillies. Rob Zastrichny, who plays with the Milwaukee Brewers. So those are the rest of the Canadians
that are in the playoffs right now until tonight, where there will be a diversion of players playing in the playoffs and not playing in the playoffs. So what we have, and we can segue to the Los Angeles Dodgers, who won last night. And I believe it's never happened before where a team wins walk-off style on an error. An error that not only didn't need to happen, it actually easily, if the catcher had have caught that ball, he would have been out, even though he passed the plate. Because, as reports have indicated, he did not touch the plate on his first pass. So even though that throw looked, people were talking, well, it's late, he wouldn't have got him anyway. what people weren't aware of, and there it was shown in the replay, and the only one that showed it that I saw was Onright, the TSN guy. I posted it today that he's the only one that made a note of the fact that, hey, hold on a second. If the catcher had caught that ball, he would have got the out because he went by the plate. He stepped, I think you could see daylight between his toe and the plate.
Yep.
Which means he didn't touch the plate. So that when the Phillies find that out, which they probably did, can you imagine the hair of that poor pitcher already feeling as bad as he was? Late that the throw was. Wide that it was the thing that really was bad. If he had thrown a clean throw, late to the plate wouldn't have been an issue because the player would have had to run back. I watched that live and it blew my mind.
Yeah, and you got to feel bad for Orion Kerkering. You really do, because it wasn't like he deliberately threw it over the catcher's head. It just, you're running off the mound
and wide and high,
and you're amped, and you're trying to get it there as quickly as possible, and the catcher gave up on it too. He's got it. As opposed to trying to cut the ball off and run for it just in case. Personally, like when I played baseball, I always tried to make sure, even if I missed the ball at the plate, I would at least touch the guy.
What are we actually saying here? So what we're saying is, as an athlete, no matter how young or how old or what league they play in, complete the play.
Always. 100%. You've got to complete the play.
We see it all the time in football when we go to BMO Field and watch the Argos and whomever they're playing, that when a ball gets picked up off the ground, the person that picks it up, if they don't hear a whistle, they got to run to the goal line as fast as they can, right?
100%.
And if it turns out that was a play that wasn't going anywhere, it doesn't matter. But we have seen where those plays do work and touchdowns are made and victories ensue after that. So it was a horrible play for a Phillies team that kind of notorious for great defense. And, we saw the Jays in that situation earlier this week. The reason why they didn't eliminate the Yankees, those devious, dastardly Yankees, they didn't dump them sooner because they forgot how to catch a ball. So that stuff's important, It's actually the same theme we always talk about, and just because we're talking about every sport, we can open it to this. Don't we talk about the fact that if you're the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, your defense has to give your offense a chance to win?
Oh, 100%.
Right? So a lot of times lackadaisical behavior on defense makes it so it's impossible for offense to win, because in the playoffs, and this is baseball as well, because the best teams with the best pitchers are playing, right? Scoring a run. Oh, you wouldn't know it with this series with the Yanks and the Jays. That, I don't know, an average of what, 9 runs a game is that's kind of crazy. I don't even know. I don't remember even hearing what the average was for the Jays as far as runs scored were concerned, but something like that. That's unusual. In real time and real experience, defense matters, and unfortunately for the Phillies, it let them down. And all that weight on that one person, that's really tough. And the team tried, letting them feel better. And like I said, if can you imagine he gets the reverberation of pain when he realizes or finds out that the guy didn't touch the plate and that he had much more time to throw it than he thought.
And I mean, he admitted it himself. He was just way too amped. Just the adrenaline was turned to 15.
Catcher was pointing.
Yeah.
Throw it to first. No, I'm throwing it to you. Wait, I'm not throwing it to you. I'm throwing it to that lady in the second row over there. Yeah, that's where I'm throwing. That was terrible. But the Dodgers advanced. They deserved it. Summarize it for us, Aaron.
At the end of the day, hard fought series. One of those things where mistakes do happen, and unfortunately for Kirkering, it was a bigger mistake on one of the biggest stages. It's nothing against. It's not going to take away anything from his performance for the rest of the year as a pitcher, but he's just got to know that there's just a few things he needs to clean up. So it's a terrible way to lose it. Dodgers are through. Phillies are done.
Yeah, Dodgers win just like the Jays, identical wins, losses. And then you've got the Cubs. 5 for the Cubs, nada for the Brewers. What the heck happened there, Aaron? That was a surprise.
Well, Happ was coming into the season. This is the longest tenured Chicago's Cub player, Ian Happ. He came into Thursday with only 2 hits this entire postseason. His third hit was a 3-run home run in the bottom of the first inning at Wrigley Field, where they won an elimination for the second day in a row. As was the case in the divisional series game 3, a rush of first inning runs was all Chicago needed in game 4. This time, however, the Cubs also added 3 insurance runs. Those were the cherries on top of the absolutely surgical pitching performance by Matt Boyd, who got a standing ovation after his 4 2/3 innings of shutout ball, and his receivers finished off a 6-0 Chicago victory. So they're heading back up the I-94 to Milwaukee for a Game 5 on Saturday with a trip to the NLCS online. It's one of those times where, Boyd set the tone on the mound early with 3 quick outs after walking Christian Yelich to lead off. He struck out 6 and allowed just 2 hits. Freddie Peralta on the flip side also had 6 strikeouts, but he didn't get out of the first inning unscathed. He gave up a single to Nico Horner, a first pitch watch to Kyle Tucker, and then that 3-run dinger to Happ, and that was pretty much all she wrote. The Brewers kind of threatened to get back into it in the 5th, but unfortunately didn't get closer than that. So that's one of those things where everybody came to life at just the right moment for them to extend their season.
So the Tigers claw their way back while the Marins ship sinks a little bit, and now they're on even keel. Next team that wins passes through, and Detroit's using their best pitcher. So if they win, which word is, and if you ask most Jays fans, I think most Jays fans would agree, they'd rather see the Jays play Detroit than Seattle. First of all, history in the playoffs says, no, please, no Seattle. No Seattle. Secondarily, the most important reason is Detroit's is more inconsistent than them. And they'll be using, if they win, they'll be using their best pitcher. So they're going to come to a series against the Jays, if they do, with one less really big arm to use at the beginning of the series. So he might get in the 3rd game and then maybe the 6th game. So the Jays have an advantage here. And it's the same advantage they've had from the beginning of the playoffs, where they're sitting on the sidelines going, why don't we just have a little double play catch? Well, they're beating the crap out of each other. They'll play.
It's the perfect opportunity for them to get in the healing where they need it, right? It's obviously not the greatest to be sitting out an extra number of games, but at the same time, it gives your players that are close the opportunity to come back, especially if it's somebody with a lot of speed who was hitting at a fantastic clip this season, who tweaked his knee, in the latter parts of the season.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee that he'll be back, but
no. And the question again will arise: rust against rest. And I think in baseball more than any other sport, Aaron, I think rest is not as negative as it is in other sports, because the rhythm in baseball is more staccato than it is an actual drum beat, right? Because just by virtue of the game is not it's not a sport where things are predictable. In other words, you go inning by inning, 3 outs. It isn't on a clock. So in a way, I think it's already worked into players who played all their lives that they wait till they're tapped on the shoulder, then they get ready to go. The only thing that'll stop you from going is if you don't have, in pitcher's case, you can't wear out your arm. So rest is better for them than it, because they only play every 5-6 days. So
yeah,
to be sitting out a little extra time, I don't think it doesn't have the same kind of impact as it does, let's say, in hockey, basketball, even football, because it's just not the same. So this is why it's so important in my mind that the Jays get these extra days off. Very, very helpful. Very helpful. Let's talk about Guerrero and the Jays, and they're getting ready.
Oh yeah, they're set up very, very nicely for this. Home advantage for the playoffs, especially when it comes to baseball, is so highly underappreciated. I don't think people understand exactly how important a role home cooking plays when it comes to baseball. You're playing 81 games at home a season. If something is not going right for you there, then you've got bigger problems, right? Um, they've got their lucky caps. That's ones with the white side panels. They took the best of 5 divisional series 3-1. Game 1 of the best of 7 is going to be on Thanksgiving Sunday against either the Tigers or the Mariners, and it doesn't matter who's coming at this point. I would prefer to see the Tigers myself, but if it's the Mariners, then we'll have to worry about taking them on too. The extra rest is going to set them up nicely, because they're not going to have to worry about traveling all the way across the country. Now Detroit is going to have some of the same advantages because they're not going to have to be flying all the way out to Seattle in order to play the Jays. It's more of a 3 or 4 hour bus ride. But by the same token, the fact that they managed to close out their series early means they have just that much more of an advantage. The other news is they went 4-2 against Detroit this season, but they also went 4-2 against Seattle. Right. So there is, again, that advantage that they have when it comes to the head-to-head matchup. And while it was closer against Detroit, I still like their odds against Detroit better than I do against the Mariners.
Detroit is an old rival, the Blue Jays. From that standpoint, I look forward to seeing the Tigers play the Blue Jays because there was a time when they were in the same division, as you may or may not remember. Yep. So there's that, which is awesome. And also, I don't think the Jays, yes, I'm pretty sure the Jays have not played Detroit in the playoffs. So that's a bit of a new thing that will be fun. And the folks from Windsor, now I don't know if for this series, the Jays are going to not allow out of province ticket buyers at this one. I don't know if the Tigers are planning on doing that. If the Tigers aren't, the Jays should lift it. Like, the only reason they did that is because other teams were denying the Jays support at the other team's park. So if the Tigers don't do that, I don't think the Jays should do it either. And I think it's fun seeing the opposing fans in the crowd. And besides, main reason, don't tell anybody, Aaron. It's our secret. The Jays fans travel well. I hadn't noticed. So it's okay. All right, let's go with the Raptors and let's talk about Ingram.
So their new guy, Connor Ingram, that they brought in, sorry, not Connor Ingram, that's the goalie. Brandon Ingram that they brought in actually had 21 points as the Raptors beat the Sacramento Kings 130-122 in their second preseason game on Wednesday. They're playing a lot of these games actually out on the West Coast, where the Vancouver Grizzlies used to play. Ingram shot 7 of 15 from the floor, added 6 rebounds and 3 assists, 0 turnovers in 23 minutes. Jacoby Walter added 15 points, 2 rebounds and 3 assists off the bench. And Grady Dick went 6 of 7 for 14 points in just over 15 minutes. Star shooting center Domantas Sabonis led the Kings with 19 points and 4 rebounds, a set of 10 shooting. Now, the Raptors lost 112-108. We mentioned that to the Denver Nuggets in their exhibition opener on Monday in Vancouver. They're trying to actually reach the playoffs for the first time since 2022. They're opening the regular season in Atlanta on October 22nd. And the fact that Brandon Ingram has been as consistent as he has for them means that, as we've mentioned in previous broadcasts, he's going to be able to take some of the pressure off Scotty Barnes and contribute down the stretch.
Absolutely. In the Canadian Football League, 4 teams are fighting for 2 playoff spots.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where
make it 3.
You have a bit of a crossover situation. This always makes things interesting when it comes to the playoffs. But the teams that are currently there fighting for it would be the BC Lions, the Calgary Stampeders, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the Edmonton Elks. this is one of those situations where, in the weirdest of weird situations, almost all of the teams in the Western Division are better than almost all of the teams in the Eastern Division. As it currently stands, Hamilton and Montreal both have places locked up as part of the way that the CFL is set up. They're going to be, they kind of have to be there. The crossover really only applies for the sixth playoff spot, and looking at Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton fighting for that, because they're all got better records than both Toronto and Ottawa. So it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out.
Absolutely. Let's talk about curling here in Canada.
So Curling Canada has noticed every 4 years or so, there's a massive uptick in individuals who love curling and know a lot about curling and get into curling. Coincidentally, that happens to happen at the same time as the Olympics. So next year, the 2026 Olympic Games in Milan and Cortina, Italy, running February 6th to 23rd, will more than likely get more people wanting to try the sport for the first time. Hosting Olympic curling watch parties or open houses or learn to curl sessions while people are feeling the buzz of watching the Olympics at the same time is a fantastic way that Curling Canada has been trying to foster more interest in the sport. Now, CBC couldn't provide curling ratings for the 2018 or 2022 Olympic Games, though reported during Beijing's Winter Games in 2022 that 1.81 million viewers tuned in February 12th for a men's game between Canada and the United States. It's ranked fourth amongst the most watched events by Canadians at the 2022 Winter Games, with the women's hockey final drawing the most at 2.7 million. So the interest is there. They're basically hoping to strike while the fire is hot and hopefully get more fans interested in it so that they can get a little more funding and get the boys and the girls some newer equipment.
Yeah, while it's a regional sport, worldly speaking, it's very intense. Let's go over to tennis and Andreescu.
So Bianca Andreescu has reached the doubles quarterfinals at Wuhan. She and China Yu Yuan advanced to the women's doubles quarterfinals without striking a ball on Thursday. Italians Jasmine Paolini and Sara Errani both withdrew before their match, giving Andreescu and Yuan the walkover victory. Paolini later reached the singles quarterfinals after her opponent, Denmark's Clara Tauson, retired while trailing 3-6, 6-1, 3-1. Andreescu and Yuan are going to face Kazakhstan's Anna Danilina and Serbia's Alexandra Krunic, the number 8 seeds. Leila Fernandez from Laval and Aaron Routliffe of New Zealand were unfortunately eliminated in the round of 16 on Thursday after falling 6-4, 4-6, 10-4 to Linda Noskova of the Czech Republic and Rebecca Shremkova of Slovakia. So a little bit of a mixed bag of successes and failures there, but glad to see that Bianca and Yu have advanced to the women's doubles quarterfinals.
Is the main sponsor for that event COVID or not? Just kidding. Wuhan, yes. Ajay Aliassime powers past Musetti. Tell us all about it.
So the 12-seeded Montreal native closed out the match with consecutive aces after just 1 hour and 25 minutes on the hard court. Ended up taking the match 6-4, 6-2 over Lorenzo Musetti on Wednesday. This has now evened up Felix Auger-Aliassime's career record against Musetti at 4 wins and 4 losses, and ended the Italians' 2-match run, which included wins at the Paris Olympics and this year's Miami Masters. Auger-Aliassime said he felt like he was playing fast, but was seeing the game slow. It's weird when you get those kind of nights. It also tightened up the PIF ATP live race to Turin. This is a year-long standing that determines the 8 single players who qualify for November's season-ending Nitto ATP Finals in Italy. Musetti began the week 8th with Auger-Aliassime 10th. The results cut the Canadians' deficit to 530 points as both chase one of the final spots. Auger-Aliassime is going to be facing Arthur Rinderknecht in the quarters. Rinderknecht beat Yuri Lecheka of the Czech Republic. And now the Canadians won both of their previous meetings in Cincinnati and Mallorca, so it's going to be a tight match.
Absolutely. Let's go over the National Hockey League. We'll start with the Montreal Canadiens. The penalty killing looked really good against the Leafs, and it did actually in their second game as well.
Yeah, this has been something that they've had a lot of focus on coming out of last season by upgrading the back line. Now, the bad news is that they lost their game against the Leafs, but they did actually manage to spring back against the Red Wings. The Canadiens ranked 9th in the NHL last season on the PK with an 80.9% success rate, but 3 members of last season's penalty kill are now gone. That's Savard, who retired. Christian Dvorak signed with the Philadelphia Flyers, and Joel Armia signed with the LA Kings as a free agent. So they had Jake Evans and Josh Anderson out there, along with Mike Matheson and Noah Dobson, while the second unit had Oliver Kapanen and Alex Newhook with Caden Gooley and Alexandre Carrier. They went 0 for 2 on the power play, the Leafs did, and had only 1 shot on goal. So you can see that they're picking up right where they left off with this sort of thing. They are aiming to be top 10 in the league again when it comes to penalty kill.
Absolutely. So the Habs also the contract talks for Hudson are ongoing, and we've had a few interesting contracts be signed, and I'm interested to see where he ends up. It'll be interesting. What do you think?
Well, he's a pending RFA at the end of the season here. It's one of those things where Hudson's family has been very involved in the entire process, as opposed to just letting the agent take it. Now, while the Canadiens obviously want to extend him, after seeing the contracts that Connor McDavid got and Eichel and Connor, it's unlikely now that those 3 big ones have fallen that this is going to get solved anytime soon, mainly because they've got a bit of runway ahead of them. But yeah, he's in the 3rd and final season of his 3-year, $2.85 million entry-level contract that he signed back in 2024. He's hoping for a bigger payday. Obviously, this is one of those jump straight to superstar money contracts again that both you and I absolutely hate. But it's that very fact and that issue that is, I think, slowing down matters for him.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Sens and Pinto.
So the Sens opened their season in Thursday against Tampa. It did not start well. They were down 2-0 in very, very short order. Then, it was 3-1 by the end. Finally, at the end of it, Pinto scored the tying goal in the second and the go-ahead goal in the third. And his hard work along the board set up Claude Giroux, who got the empty netter, which turned out to be the game winner. Both teams, the Sens and the Lightning, combined for 36 penalty minutes and 2 fights in an extremely chippy first period. Curtis McDermott and Curtis Douglas, that's Curtis with a K McDermott and Curtis with a C Douglas, both got into a massive scrap. I'm not 100% sure what McDermott was thinking, trying to throw gloves with Curtis Douglas. In retrospect, it might have been a mistake, but at the end of the day, Ottawa managed to put it all together and come out with the win.
Absolutely, and good for them. The Jets rally late, but unfortunately, they were too far behind and fell 5-4 to the Stars.
Yeah, this is a rematch of the playoffs and the game that actually put the Jets out. Unfortunately, they were unable to get themselves back on top of it all. It's one of those unfortunate circumstances where you think everything's firing, but something sneaks through. And at the end of the day, they have a few things that they need to work on to get everything cleared up. But they did look good. So high hopes for the Jets going forward.
Let's talk about the Flames. Good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, the Oilers kind of gave it to them. Their power play got 2 goals on its first 2 chances. Now that's the good for the Oilers. This team relies a lot on the man advantage. Former Flame Andrew Mangiapane scored into the top corner and showed well enough. There was a goal and an assist for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Edmonton actually held Calgary to just 8 shots through 30 minutes and outshot them 35-22 on the night. Even with Jake Wallman not in the lineup yet, their defense is still really, really tight. Bad, with the Oilers up 3-0 and 7.5 minutes to go in the second period. Darnell Nurse tried an unsuccessful 1-on-3 rush just outside the Calgary blue line. The puck went the other way with the Oilers caught up ice, and that quick transition kind of resulted in a goal that I think their goalie should have had. Game 1 of the season featured more of the same for the Oilers. Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Connor McDavid were on the ice for all 3 of Edmonton's goals. Stuart Skinner let in a really bad one, and the power play accounted for 2/3 of Edmonton's offense. The ugly was Skinner. He looked absolutely brutal on the tying goal. He froze with the puck in between his feet. And a missed defensive assignment at the blue line let Blake Coleman waltz in and just poke it past him. Now, that was 40 seconds into the third period. It isn't the reason they lost, but it is the reason that they didn't win. And it's one of those things where Skinner has to stop getting the yips on opening nights. Otherwise, it's going to be a really tough season for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about the Oilers.
So there was a lot of talk about a certain first-round draft pick who went to Columbus with Patrick Laine, and eventually turned out to be the bigger surprise part of that particular deal. As it currently stands, the Leafs were rumored to be signing him, but the Oilers picked him up to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract. He'd been skating in Columbus as a UFA after going unsigned since July 1st, looking to test the free agent market. But this is one of those things where I think he's finally found the right fit, and it's with Edmonton. So, he'll be part of the machinery that gets Connor McDavid to the Cup.
Absolutely. They signed the D-man, Jake Wallman, and I'm talking about the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, they signed him to a 7-year, $7 million per contract, so 7 for 49. Unfortunately, he starts the season on the IR. Because of this, this makes a short-term roster spot for Jack Roslovic, who they just signed, as we mentioned, to that $1.5 million deal. It gives them a little bit of time to try to sort out their forward lines and defensive pairings without having to move out a forward to make roster space for Roslovic. He's obviously missed, just like Alex Regula. Regula made several strong plays at Darnell Nurse's side against Calgary, but had trouble cleaning up for Nurse. So they're hoping that at this point here, they can take him off IR and activate him once they've accrued enough cap space to keep Roslovic around for a little while longer. This is one of those shadow boxing puppet dance moves that a lot of teams seem to engage in around this time of year.
Oilers were able to sign Roslovic because of the contract that McDavid signed. McDavid really helped in that regard. So still, again, we're going to find out how well management handles that extra money, which we believe they're getting. They have. And we talked about as much as $7 million a season that he could have got more than he did. Let's talk about the Oilers. Jake Wallman signed with them, $7 million a year, and then guess what? He's injured.
Yep, and again, that was, like I mentioned, part of the paper transaction to make room for Roslovic in the first place. So it's cap shenaniganery, I think, but there is also the fact that he is genuinely still recovering from something that he picked up. So we'll see how long this lasts.
Cheadle in the Canucks.
Right. Cheadle got 2. Vancouver dumped the Flames 5-1 in their season opener. So after coming off a win against the Edmonton Oilers, they went into play Vancouver. Unfortunately, didn't work out the way they would have thought. Sorry, Kiefer Sherwood, Jonathan Leketemaki, and Brock Besser scored for the Canucks, as well as Philip Cheadle. Demko stopped 17 of the 18 shots that he faced. Morgan Frost, son of the beloved Maple Leafs announcer Andy Frost, scored the lone goal for Calgary, beating Demko 13-06 into the third period. Wolf, who was playing his second game in as many nights, made 21 saves for the Flames, who were coming off a 4-3 shootout win, as we mentioned, over the Oilers on Wednesday. Now, the Canucks offense exploded in the third period, with them firing 10 shots on net and scoring 4 goals. The Flames, unfortunately, had 2 players to go to the locker room to get checked for apparent head injuries. Connor Zary went down the tunnel after getting checked into the boards early in the second, but returned before the end of the period. And Ball exited after taking a puck off the back of the head early in the third and did not come back to the ice. So the injury train has already started to roll.
Well, the trend still continues, the Leafs being able to handle the Habs.
Yeah, it's funny, for the longest time, people kept asking the NHL to give us Montreal every single opening night. It's interesting that Montreal has basically forgotten how to win in Toronto, it appears. This is the 11th consecutive win for the Maple Leafs over the Habs in Toronto. This is the second longest streak in Maple Leafs history. They won 12 in a row at home against the Habs in between 2014 and 2021. Now, this game was actually a bit closer than the 5-2 final would indicate. Bobby McMahon scored a minute in, and then Montreal equalized 4.5 minutes later with a goal from Oliver Kapanen, not related to Kasperi. In the second period, the Canadiens actually took their only lead when Zach Bolduc made it 2-1. But then Kalle Järnkrok tied it up midway through the second, and in the third, it was all Leafs. Riley made it 3-2 with a goal after 90 minutes. Toronto capped it off with a pair of empty netters, first from Austin Matthews and second from William Nylander. Montreal outshot Toronto, forcing 31 shots on net, making Stolarz make 29 saves, as compared to 22 saves and 25 shots for Sam Montembeault. This was a good game for me, mainly because Austin and Willie get their first goals of the season out of the way early. Doesn't matter if they're empty nets. The fact of the matter is now the media is not going to have that little nugget of, oh, so-and-so hasn't scored in such and such a number of games since the beginning of the season. Are they hurt? So we get to sidestep that rather neatly.
Well, Nylander continues his pace in scoring goals. He's an offensive threat. There's room for him to be more impactful on the scoring sheet, and we'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. And no, needless to say, the same's true for Matthews in probably a bigger way. So the Leafs win 5-2, and the Marner era, the minus Marner era, begins with a Leaf victory as well.
It really does, and you know what? I'm hoping. I'm really hoping that we'll actually have a chance to not talk about this going forward, because it's kind of frustrating every Leafs win to sort of be talking about that, you know?
I get it. Unfortunately, Marner was a central figure in the Maple Leafs team, and now he's gone elsewhere. And being a Leaf fan, being a Toronto sports fan, one wonders why someone would want to leave Toronto. But we heard the worst of the worst stories we could possibly hear in regards to Marner and his departure. His parting shot was one that reverberated for a short time, but now players that are here are talking about how much they love playing here, and they're sort of contradicting what he said. And to me, that's the most important thing, that playing in Toronto is a privilege. It really is an honor. And any hockey player that gets to play in Toronto will realize how adored they are, which they are, and how feted they are as well. Some might suggest feted beyond what is reasonable and almost to a detriment as a player on the team. So, I mean, just imagine this, folks. I go to plug in my stereo, and for some reason it's not working. I pick up the phone, I call the Leaf organization. They send an audio expert to your home to make sure your audio equipment, your TV's working fine. If you can imagine that. That's the level of spoiling that the Leaf organization does for its players. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of other players and teams hate the Leafs so much, because they, quite frankly, they do spend some of the money that they make. They make gobs and gobs of money. It's the one advantage that they can exercise because the cap doesn't affect that. The same thing with coaches. So if you're a young player, you're going to end up hopefully in a place where your ability will be expanded on. You will get a chance to be the best player you can be. So yeah, being a Leaf isn't such a bad deal. It's a bad deal when you're a good player and you don't play as good. That's a problem. Ask Riley; he'll tell you. Aaron, you want to drill down on that?
For sure. Yeah, you know what? I think Riley would be the first person to admit that he had a terrible season last year. And we mentioned earlier in the week and in shows prior that he'd taken a step back over the course of the summer to try to do a little bit more mental work, improve his mindset, that sort of thing. Also, because he scored, he now has a rather interesting record. He is now the fourth player in Toronto Maple Leafs history to score at least a goal in 3 different opening games of the season. So he's this is the 3rd different time he's scored a goal in the Maple Leafs' first game of the season. That puts him in the same company as Harry Cameron, Marley's broadcaster Jim McKenney, and Todd Gill. So it's a rather interesting list to find yourself on. But it was his commitment, I think, to improving his offensive play and getting himself into the right position that allowed him to be at the right spot in front of the net to snipe last night. So it's a good thing to see.
Absolutely. And still sticking with the point of how nice it is to be a Maple Leaf. Here's a great example of it. Caden Primo is picked off the waiver wire, becomes a Maple Leaf. Literally, his phone blows up. Non-stop text messages, Aaron. I wonder why that is.
Well, as some of you may know, his father's Keith Primo, and Keith is originally from Toronto. Caden's his son, grew up playing in Montreal, but at the same time, Primo was playing backup to Montembeault in the Canadiens' season opener against the Leafs last year. He ended up with the Canadiens, but then down with the Laval Rocket, and got picked up by the Carolina Hurricanes, and then the Leafs got him off waivers. So, and now he's back in the city where his dad grew up. He spent a lot of time here.
Never played the Leafs, but he spent a lot of time in the Leaf fans enjoyed watching him win Stanley Cups elsewhere, like Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're hoping that he'll bring some of that magic here.
Yes, maybe the kid inherited some of it. Maybe
you never know.
That kind of thing. Yeah, well, at least it's the beginning of the year, and the distraction of the Blue Jays, I think, is a good thing for the Leafs. They start their season worrying about process, not pressure. There always is going to be pressure on the Maple Leafs, but right now, when it comes to fans' excitement, the excitement in the Blue Jays that exists today is not one that existed last year or the year before or the year before that. When the Leafs got off, when they started, everybody was paying attention, and it was all Maple Leafs all the time. They're getting a different kind of treatment this year. They don't feel, in fact, they travel to the baseball game to support the baseball team. That to that extent, where there's bigger things to do than them, and they even realize it.
Well, as an add-on to that as well, Frank, now the Leafs are supposed to be playing the Detroit Red Wings on Thanksgiving Monday in a holiday matinee game. That was originally scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern. They've now moved the puck drop to 2 p.m. in order to avoid.
And why is that?
Well, there's this thing called the American League Championship Series that's being hosted by the Toronto Blue Jays just down the street.
So have they moved it now, or is it gonna depend on whether Detroit wins tonight?
No, they've announced Friday. That was earlier today that the game originally scheduled for 4 will now drop the puck at 2 in an effort to avoid any televised conflict with the Jays game, which is supposed to go at 7. So
right, and give the fans a chance to go to both games.
Exactly. Well, if they can afford it. I was actually speaking with a friend of mine who does ticket sales with the Blue Jays, and on the resale side, in the bleachers, the last 10 rows were going for $570 each.
In Detroit?
No, in Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto.
For game one of the series.
My goodness. I have friends who were just there. They bought tickets and only cost them $80. So that's what it starts at.
That's the resale that you're looking at.
Right. And now you're talking 7 times as much.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ludicrous.
Well, I was gonna, as a reward for, we'd have a show meeting at one of the Blue Jay games. That's over.
Well, we can do it next season.
And maybe
I see what was
season.
what was really interesting actually was the fact that after the Leafs home opener on Wednesday against the Habs, they actually showed the Leaf game on the Jumbotron and kept the stadium open.
The Jay game. The Jay. Yeah.
Yes. After the Leafs game against the Habs, they showed the Jays game on the Jumbotron.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to Sunday. Originally, the schedule said they were going to play on Saturday. For some reason, it switched to Sunday. I don't get that. If you remember, the early schedule said that they would play on Saturday. They've moved it one day further, which helps the two teams that are playing. Instead of having to play 2 days in a row, now they've got an off day in between.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's because the Jays want conspiracy stuff. What are you going to do? All right. So good news. We've got a Leaf team that's off to a good start. We have the Blue Jays in a series. We've got them for at least 4 games. So we're going to get a chance to enjoy town passion. The big smoke is going to be excited for the next few days. It's going to be a real roller coaster ride, no matter who they play, whether it's Seattle or Detroit. It's going to be fun. And we'll be here to talk about it 3 times a week. So why don't you join us then? And if you want to see what we've talked about before, or you caught this at the end and you want to watch the whole thing, just go to YouTube, Candid Frank Stanishi, 1030 on YouTube, and you can check it out. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks, Aaron. You're the best.
Thanks, Frank.